everyone. Welcome to SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly free show that we do, streaming live, where we talk about just topics in SharePoint. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is my team at Rackspace Hosting. We're all SharePoint consultants. And basically, this is, I think, our 78th episode. And our topics just are, pretty much anything in SharePoint that's not going to be custom code, and it's not going to be hardcore server admin type of activities. So there are a ton of different categories that fall out of those two things. We talk about end user topics, just business users working in SharePoint, out of the box configurations, things like Webparts. We have discussions about user adoption, just all kinds of neat stuff that we go over. And again, every Wednesday at 11 Central. So the way this works is we'll go and I'll introduce ourselves, and the way you can interact, we would love you to be able to interact with us. So if you are watching this on YouTube, it's going to have a little yellow button that will take you over to the Google Hangout interface. And when you're in the Google Hangout interface, there is a Q&A, the ability to go into the little Q&A app. So when you're watching us on the screen, there's a little panel on the right side that by default it shows, I think it's called, it's got like, it looks like a little price tag, a little yellow price tag, and it shows just links that we've shared. But if you click some little squares towards the top right, it lets you switch over to the other app, which is the Q&A. So the Q&A is where you can ask us questions just anytime. That's the whole point of doing it live, is we love to get interaction from you guys. So and we can see the Q&A from our end. So feel free to just shout it out and say hello if you found it. And if you've done this before, welcome back. Our demo today is going to be enterprise keywords, tagging, and just different ways you can work with it, and different things to think about and consider, and things you can do as an end user and things you can do as more of a site manager type of person. So again, we'll have everybody go through and introduce themselves. And again, you guys here in the room, I'd like to get your feedback too, because you work with customers, you work with end users, and what have you seen them do, and what have you seen, just ideas that you have and things like that. So we'll go Joelle, then Ryan, then Tanya, then Tavis down there. So.
All right, I am Joelle Farley. I am a business solution consultant with Rackspace. I am based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and I've worked with SharePoint for about 6 or 7 years, and a lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about today is the stuff that I work with pretty much on a daily basis. All of the lovely tools that we can use to build robust information architecture in SharePoint. So I'm looking forward to the session.
All right, Ryan.
Hi everybody, I'm Ryan Keller. I am based out of Colorado. I'm the branding guy on the team here at Rackspace. And as you might guess, my role on the team is to make SharePoint a little less like SharePoint and a little more like what the client wants.
All right. And Ryan, I know that you have children, because I see a little pink car down there.
Oh, yeah, no, I sure do.
All right. Let's see, Tanya.
Hi, I'm Tanya Kaiser. I am the SharePoint administrator here at Rackspace for our internal SharePoint farm. So I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas at Rackspace headquarters. And a lot of what we talk about on Power Hour is the same sort of things that I do with my customers, who happen to be my fellow Rackers, utilizing all of the out-of-the-box parts.
All right, Tavis.
Hello everyone, my name is Tavis Lovell, and I am the business intelligence developer on the business solutions team. I'm based out of Cincinnati, and I've been dealing with primarily BI on the Microsoft stack for about the last 10 years or so. So everything to do with reporting and dashboarding inside of SharePoint I've dealt with at one time or another.
All right, and Stephen, I'll let you go next.
Hello, I'm Stephen Wilson. I am the admin infrastructure migration person on the business solutions team. And I also teach our administrative, like farm administrator class for 2013 and for 2016 when we write it up, I'm sure.
All right. Oh, yeah. Speaking of that, and I teach the Power User class, so it's sharepoint.rackspace.com/training where those exist if you guys are interested. So again, I'm Laura Rogers. I'm a Microsoft MVP, and again, we all work at Rackspace Hosting. I live in Birmingham, Alabama, and I've been working in the SharePoint for about 10 years. And my demo today is going to be using basically enterprise keywords, manage metadata, and just kind of all the little things to consider and ways that end users can use it and ways that you can help them use it, help them not have to think about it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. Let's see. I got to move this over here. There we go. Okay, so now when I share it this way, can you guys still see my face at the bottom or no?
No.
No.
Does not appear so.
So I really, let me try it again. Hold on a second. I really want this to work. Okay, so let me try it again. I don't think that there's a way that it would show my face while I'm presenting. Oh well. I thought that there was, but maybe not. Okay, so y'all can see my screen now that I don't have anything on it yet. Great. Yes.
We can see your screen.
Thank you. Okay. So this is a very short PowerPoint presentation, but I just really wanted to give you guys a structure of what we're going to be talking about in the demo. Usually these are just your demos, and I don't do a lot of prep for mine. I know Tavis actually spends time and puts slides together and makes them nice and organized, and he like plans them, and a lot of you other guys do that, but no, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. This is very informal. So we're going to be talking about tagging documents and Office integration, and the topics, we're going to start with the Office integration, just the basic functionality for tagging files in libraries in SharePoint and Office 365, and that end-user experience when doing so, and then things that you can do as sort of the site manager to defaults that you can set, ways to set default manage metadata, and then where that ends up in the term store, and then we're going to talk about customizing the search center to actually utilize those tags. Like, what's the point of using, what's the point of tagging everything? It helps with search. That's the sort of end goal. So we like for people to be able to find things. Let me just stop sharing for a second. Show my face. All right. We like for people to be able to find things in SharePoint, and we want them to be able to, not only find what they're looking for, but understand how what end users are doing just day to day with files in SharePoint affects how they can find them. So sort of the goal here is to talk about what they can do as individuals, what you can do as a site manager to apply keywords to things, and then what do they care about? The end users care about, how does this help me? How does this affect me? How is this going to make my job easier or my day easier? We don't want to make things more complicated for them, because then they will either not do it or complain or hate SharePoint or go use something else, and we don't want that to happen. So we want to do what we can to make it pleasant and not too complicated. That in there in the chat window says, who is attending at night? I'm attending for sessions primarily about SharePoint. All of us, Tavis is not going to make it, but all of us are going to be attending, and several of our whole other team of coworkers from Rackspace will be there. We'll have a booth and everything, and I'm personally presenting a couple of sessions, and maybe we'll talk about that at the end and talk about what those are. All right, looking forward to seeing you there. Okay, I'll go ahead and get my demo environment pulled up here, and my so I've got a virtual machine, and I've got SharePoint on that virtual machine so that I can I can go run the search index and things like that manually if I need to while I'm doing my demos. So this is my little test site. Let me share my screen with you again. All right. Okay. So this is my test SharePoint site in my VM. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that we can do with just basics of a document library, and how to turn on this whole enterprise keywords thing. So we have, I'll just go into a site in SharePoint and I'll just go ahead and say this library is called Projects and go look at this library called Projects. It's got a bunch of files in it. I'm going to go ahead and show you where the setting is. So if I go into Library Settings, I'll see Enterprise Metadata and Keyword Settings. And the Enterprise Keywords checkbox adds the Enterprise Keywords column to the list and enables keyword synchronization. And then save metadata on this list as social tags. That will actually tie everything together to your managed metadata and add whatever they're tagging things with to your term store. So that is good. So I usually go in here and check both of these boxes. So if you're creating a brand new library, so I'll just say add an app, and I'm just going to create a new library. Let's see, this is the operations site. Oh, sorry about my keyboard being loud. When I create a new library, just one thing that I get in the habit of doing is I'll just go straight into the library settings and go ahead and check those boxes. So that's what gives you just the out-of-the-box keywords. I haven't gone in and created any kind of custom columns or anything like that. You know, that's another common thing we do is create specific columns, specific other metadata that we want people to fill out. But I'm purely going to be talking about this managed metadata one in this demo, and things that, you know, ways that you can utilize it. So I've got, you know, enterprise metadata and keyword settings turned on. So it adds it as a field. It's going to show up in the properties of each document. So another thing that I can do if I want to, just when I first create a library, if I want to visually see that information, I can go add enterprise keywords to my default view, just so that whatever people tag things with, they'll be able to see it there and then be able to sort and filter and find things like that. All right, so what I can do in just in general, I can go around in SharePoint and I can go find libraries that I want to organize and go turn this setting on. Like this library is called Benefit Documents. So what I can do with that is the end user experience is going to be, they're going to have the enterprise keywords that they can fill in. So just by default, just by turning that on, and I'll go ahead and add that column to this one as well. And there it is. We'll look a little bit about at what that end user experience is going to be like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over into my little, instead of using my own on my desktop, my own applications on here, I'm going to go over to this little sort of client machine that I have. So I'll go log in to the domain, my little virtual domain, and we'll get that end user experience. So what I've done is I went into Human Resources, and I went to Benefit Documents, and that's where I turned on the enterprise keywords. Nothing that has an enterprise keyword in it yet. So what I can do is, if someone is just putting a new file in here, there are a couple of things that we can do. So new document, I'll just browse to my desktop here, and I'll just pick an Excel file. And you'll notice that not only do I get the name and title and any other metadata that I have in that library, I get enterprise keywords too. So I'll just say what do I want to tag this with? So maybe actually this is I put this in a benefit documents file. So the file itself has to do with SharePoint server stuff, but it's just a test file. So I'm going to say that this, you know, all the files in here, or specifically this one, have to do with benefits. So I can tag something with an enterprise keyword that already exists. I can say, well, this is under Human Resources, and it looks like I have a department already called Human Resources. And then I can say, well, maybe this has to do with like a medical benefit. And I can actually, if I don't want to pick one of the suggestions that's in there, I can just create a new one called medical. So now I have some metadata associated with this file that I just uploaded, and I can see it here. And now my enterprise keywords column is going to give me the ability to quickly drill down and filter and sort by keywords, so it's going to be a very helpful thing to have there. Of course, enterprise keywords are very just free form. People can, by default, put whatever they want to in there, but at least it has the type ahead suggestion. It shows you things that are going to be that exist already, so that they can pick from things. That makes it nice and easy. All right, so what if I go in here and I want to, just sort of another concept is that maybe I want to make this a little bit more easy for them so they don't have to fill all this stuff in when they're putting files in here. So I went over to, I created this services subsite, and I created a library, and I created some folders in here, because a lot of times you guys come across this, right, in the real world, libraries full of folders, right? Have you seen this happen? Yeah. So we can actually use this, and we can actually still use manage metadata and use the file folders, the folders that we see that they've already created, to do some defaults. So first of all, I'll show you, just even if I don't have any, I'll find one that doesn't have any folders in it real quick. I don't have any that don't have any folders in them. I'll delete my folder. Okay, this one, I'm just going to go delete this folder. I don't think there's anything in it. Yeah. All right, so I'll go delete this folder just because I want to show you this interface that I'm about to show you. Now, what if I want to just tag everything in this library automatically whenever they put things in it? So when I go to my library settings and I go to my enterprise keywords here, oh yeah, see, it doesn't really have like settings or default values or anything that I can do in here like normal columns would have, but that doesn't mean I can't put a default value. For this one, you actually have to go to the column default value settings right here. And this is in enterprise, so this is if you're on Office 365, it's E3 and above. And if you're on premises, it's the enterprise version of SharePoint that has this stuff, by the way. Column default value settings. So I can see this is the name of my library over here, and then I can click on enterprise keywords. So the name of this library, I think I called it project files. Let me go double check. Yeah, it's project files. It was right there in front of me. And so I want to say, well, this is under a site called services. So I'll say I want to tag it with services, like that. And looks like that's one I've already used. And I want to say projects, like that. And then if I hit enter, it will just create that if it didn't already exist. So now I've got services, projects. So now everything that people put in this library will automatically get that manage metadata. Is that cool? So you can also use this with folders. So if I go to services, I'm going back to my library settings over here, and I can go to column default value settings. So this is where it gets really powerful. So you can turn on enterprise keywords, and you can rely on end users knowing to go fill that out. But you can also do a lot of this stuff behind the scenes for them so they don't have to think. So if I go to enterprise keywords here, this is going to be for the whole library. So I set the enterprise keyword default value to services here. But these are my folders. So here's what I did. I went into each folder, and I went to enterprise keywords. And so this applies to any metadata you have, most metadata types, where you can go put default values. So this means that whatever folder someone puts something in, it will default these keywords to, and I put services, and I put also exchange. So I'm going to turn this one off and show you what it looks like. So by default, when I go to this, I can see the ones that I put rules on. So if I go to link, I can see that. I can go to SharePoint. I can see that I put SharePoint. But I see that I didn't put a rule on this one. It's still going to get services by default. So I can go in here, and one little just sort of buggy thing is that it doesn't automatically put, it inherits services, but it doesn't automatically have services listed here. So I have to kind of go add it again, but then I go services and then type exchange. Oops, like that. So then let's go see what that end user experience looks like. I'm going to actually go in here and do a new file. So I'll go new document. And wait 15 years for Word to come up. So I can see this is metadata. It actually shows here in my little panel, my document information panel. So I'm going to call this SharePoint server build. And it automatically put the keywords in there. And I can say SharePoint server build, SharePointy. Etc. Okay, so I can hit save, and it knows my current folder is this particular one in SharePoint. But you guys, now take a look at this. You might have noticed this before. This has been around in several versions of Office. This is huge right here. So this tags thing right here, it's right there on the file naming page. So end users are used to going to this screen. They've seen this screen for many years. They're used to going in here and just giving a file a name when they save it for the first time, right? This is training. Just train them to not only give it a file name, but give it some tags as well. But again, if you set some defaults, then you don't have to rely on them starting from scratch and doing all the tags, but they could still go in here and add some more. So I can go like server or something. And so, see, I added another tag to it. So this is huge for me for user adoption, is showing end users this, this tags thing and just getting them in the habit of tagging things. Now, even if you don't have enterprise keywords, the settings turned on in your library, they're still going to see this when they are saving files in Office. So it's turning on the settings in the library is what integrates this tags thing with the library itself and gives you that column. Is that pretty cool? You guys, even if you don't have a question, you can just shout it out in the Q&A and say that's pretty cool, or say, you know, if you've never noticed it before, or give me some feedback. Any of you guys here in the room see people using this, or have you dealt with customers and trained them on this?
Yep, I have. I have implemented this a few times and kind of shown them that they can, you know, tag this way and stuff like that, for sure.
Awesome. All right, so now even if they didn't see the document information panel there, it would still, you know, have on that Save As screen, even on previous versions of Office, it would have it there. So yeah, I'll go ahead and save my changes. And then let's see, is it going to refresh this? Where's my document? Sorry, my VN's a little slow. Go back to SharePoint. All right, so there's the document, and then there are those enterprise keywords that I gave it. And again, this is really useful. So not only are the enterprise keywords, we did a whole other Power Hour on this, but I just want to touch on it real quick. Not only is managed metadata useful when you're just looking at it in the column there, but you have your metadata navigation that you can turn on. So I'll go real quick, turn that on. Unfortunately, it's a feature that is not enabled by default. So metadata navigation and filtering right here. I'll go activate that, and I'll show you what that gives you real quick. Okay, so metadata navigation filtering is active. And then, Jack, I'll get your question in just a second. So now, when I go to my library settings, I have metadata navigation settings. So that is just another way that will help me get around in here. And oh, it doesn't have it. It doesn't have it there. That's interesting. So available hierarchy fields, it doesn't have enterprise keywords there. That is interesting to note. All right. But yeah, when you specifically have added manage metadata as a column to your library, that one would show there as an option to use. But still, you can sort and filter. And then, of course, the good old trick, if folders are annoying to you, they're super annoying to me. As soon as the first time I ever go to a library if I see folders, the first thing I do in there is I go create a view. Sometimes I'll just make it a personal view if I don't want to confuse anybody, and I'll just call it no folders. And that way, you can just simply utilize your go into folders, show all items without folders. You can purely use your manage metadata. You have no folders, and you can just get around that way without having to, worry about drilling up and drilling down and then filtering and all that stuff. All right, Jack says, getting the document panel to populate the columns from my document library was difficult and non-intuitive. I was using a .m Word template as a content type. It's also annoying that doc library columns can't use manage metadata. I've never seen the first part of your question. I've never seen that happen. What is the dot? I don't know what a .m is off the top of my head. Is that? Oh, that's got a macro in it, I believe. Yeah. Document library columns can't use manage metadata. Yeah, they can. So I'm not sure what you're referring to with document library columns can't use manage metadata, but that's just a column type that you can create when you go to create a column, Jack, is manage metadata like this. So yeah, you would just call it whatever you want to call it, and so this is going to be more structured than just the enterprise keywords, right? Because for this one, you're going to actually pick a specific little, section in your manage metadata. Like if I want people to only tag things with terms that fall under information technology, that's when I could create, manage metadata column that is specific to that. But yeah, that's how you would do that. All right, let's see. So you can go through your environment, or when you're working with people, when they own their sites and you're trying to help them with their sites. I can even go tag, pages in a pages library are also their files that can have enterprise keywords. So I can go to a just the site pages library that exists by default on team sites, and I can do enterprise keywords on that. And then I can go to my site pages. Let's see, Jack says Word template with macro, but the user couldn't access that from the Word interface. I believe that's what that little error was about older versions of Office. So that makes me think that it's only because they might have had an older version of Office, older than like 2007, I think, because managed metadata was introduced in 2010. Managed metadata was introduced in 2010, so that's probably why, if they have older than that. Oh, thanks, Joni. Joni says, I love this. Great topic to add to my SharePoint Basics training I'm giving to my colleagues over the next month. This is great for all the libraries that already have folders. Yes, awesome. Okay, so here is just site pages, and I've done the same thing. So I'll go ahead and modify my view and add the enterprise keywords to it. And then for the pages themselves, I can just quickly go into the properties and give it some keywords. So this is human resources, and it's I think this is dental, so benefits. No, not benefits insurance plans, just benefits. Create new. And then dental is a good, sure, I'll just pick that one. All right, so in what I've done, even with clients in the past, is I've gone through just gone through their libraries and found, just found libraries that maybe had a bunch of folders in them, or in just things that were obvious that could have default values. So like this is policies. This is obviously company policies in here. Go check my boxes. And then I have the ability to quickly go in here and go column default value settings, and just everything they put in here, I'll just tag it with policy. So that way, even if it's just something that's just the name of whatever the library is, or the name of the folder, you're at least giving it some managed metadata. And so if you kind of just go through, I've just gone through sites just methodically and just turned on that setting and set up enterprise keyword defaults, and then train them to notice that when they're clicking save as, and train them to notice it when they're uploading things, then that all will help. And so what do you do though? The next step here is, let me go ahead and just stop sharing for a second. So now that we've gotten this concept of end users and going in libraries and just kind of what that interface looks like for saving things and tagging things and by default, setting those defaults, now the next step is to go into that term store management and see how you can kind of fine-tune some of that. Now, managing the term store for this case isn't really, it's not a requirement, but it will help you to have a better sort of business structure, business hierarchy, which will also help with search. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. And there we go. All right, so I'm going to go now. I could just go to just a site. I'll go show you where this is at the site level, and then I'm going to go ahead and do this from Central Admin though, because I can still do it there as well. So who am I? I'm logged in as me. I'll go to Term Store Management. So for any given site, I can go manage the term store from here. But I can also go, as an admin, I can go manage the term store. It's pretty much the same interface from Central Admin. So I'll go ahead and go from there, just to show you where that is. All right, so I'll go to Manage Service Applications. I did put a little shortcut to it over here too, but I'll go ahead and navigate to it. And says, is there a permission or option that can be turned off so users can't create new managed metadata keywords? As far as keywords, not really, but I'll show you some of that. Joelle, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are things that you can manage in here, but just the general, just generic keywords themselves, I don't think you can turn that. Well, we'll go look at some of this in here.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on, if you're using an enterprise keyword column, then no, because that's the point. But you can create other terms. You can create other term sets and then close them. So in that way, they only have a certain amount of options that they can choose from, and they can't add new ones.
Exactly.
Which is what you would do if you didn't want them to just kind of willy-nilly add whatever they wanted to.
So you'll notice the first thing that I go to in my term store management tool is just there's this default system little folder in here, and you're going to have keywords in here by default. At least every farm I've seen had keywords in here as a default, and that's where they all end up. That's where they all just show up in one big long list when people tag things with those keywords. So you can hear I have this long list of just hundreds of keywords. Now what you can do is if you find a keyword that's like an inappropriate word or something like that that you specifically don't want people to use, you can actually uncheck that. So you could just delete it so that it's not there anymore, but that's not going to stop anybody from using it. But if you uncheck it in here, that's a way of sort of moderating that and making sure that people don't ever use that word again. So that's where your keywords end up. So what I've done, and what I've done even recently for a customer, was that we went in and created their business structure in here. So we created just kind of, the name of the company here. And you create a business structure based on what you see, kind of just these patterns that you see of the keywords people are using. So you might have like divisions of your department. So I can say new term set, and I can say divisions. Or let's see, what's a better word? Yeah, I'll just do divisions. And then under divisions, I can say, well, East is a division. They've actually tagged with that before. So instead of just creating East over here and just having a brand new one, I can take this tag that people have been using already and I can move it. That way you're not going to lose any data. You're not going to lose what people have already tagged. And then the things that people have already tagged with that, now they're under a nice, neat structure. That makes sense? So what I did was I methodically went through. It was, you know, it was a lot more than this for a production environment, but I methodically went through and found terms and found the ones that they had used that fell into these sort of these categories that I created as I went, as just finding patterns. And then I moved the ones that, that existed already, and then I created new ones. So like there's one called like for theirs, maybe I called it locations, and then I had, we had like east, west, north, south, or something like that. And then what we did was I found, where they might have used the word Chicago in here or something like that. Like I found the word Chicago, and I was like, oh, well, Chicago is a location, and that is going to be, in a certain region. So I'm not sure which region Chicago would fall under, but so I went through and created an actual structure where I had like East and I had like Illinois, and then under Illinois, that's where Chicago would go. So this way you're building out a structure according to whatever your business, just your own company, whatever that taxonomy would be. So like Asia is going to need to go probably in its own entire division. So I'll just move that existing one over here. I have a whole division called Asia. And then I can create synonyms once I'm in here. So with just the keywords down here, I can't create synonyms in here. I can't really do anything except uncheck the available for tagging. But the cool thing is once I start moving things up here, then I can start doing all this additional stuff with it. So I can uncheck and make it not available for tagging, but I can also say Illinois. As other labels is just synonyms. So now I've got a synonym, and I can even put a description. This is the state of Illinois. So when people are tagging things in SharePoint and they're using all these, then they're going to have a lot more rich information about that. People have company policies. You have they use the word policy or policies. You can create a synonym in here that just says policy synonym as policies, and that way either one would fall under the same category. So as you can see, I could kind of just go through, like this is going to be the sort of the structure. Maybe one of the departments in my company is called development, and one of the departments in my company is called services. So I could just say divisions are more like maybe physically where they are in the world, but maybe departments is another way that I could categorize things. And then I can have, customers. Now, not necessarily having every single customer in here, but I can say like customer types or something like that. And then I can have, say, I was real estate or something. I would have renters, and buyers, leasers, or something like that. So then you would go find things that people are using in here. So that's one thing you can do, is you can just start tagging things in your environment, and then based on what you see, based on the terms that you see being used, build your structure out from there. That way you get a better feel for it, as opposed to just completely starting from scratch in here and not really knowing what the structure really needs to be. So like operations, I can make operations is going to be a department in my company. Link is going to be, that's going to be a technology. So maybe that would fall under, maybe I need an IT company, like an IT category in here under my departments, and then I could put the different IT technologies in there. Anne says, we had problems with users creating keywords for their My Sites. They were describing their private lives like they love cats and crocheting. The boss had a fit when he found these keywords on the business site collection. Yep. Now, the reason you're going to see that, Anne, is because by default in your user profiles, that those fields that they're filling out are automatically metadata fields. So, like, if I'm an end user and I'm going to my About Me, and like I had put LSU as that's where I went to college, I had filled that in my About Me profile as the college I went to, and you might have noticed in the keywords that LSU was in there as a keyword. It was because I had put it in my profile, like my contact information, my basic information. All those end up, see how it's got a little tag next to it? That's managed metadata. So if you really wanted to be a stickler, I guess, there are things that you could do from the central admin perspective. Stephen, you might have more information about this than I, but to actually maybe, turn these off and make them maybe not manage metadata if you want to, so that that doesn't happen. But that would be a matter of going into user profiles and properties.
So there are a lot of things you can do. It's not necessarily just flipping a switch to make it not managed metadata, but you can manipulate, whether people can edit those things, or you could create, a different kind of field, or you could change it around. So there are things that can be done from the site or from the farm administration level to change that. Cool.
So let's go to. I'll get Central Admin pulled up there, and we can go look at some of that in a minute. Go straight to my user profile service. So let's see. Yeah. So that hopefully that answers that question. See, Beth says, is there a way to allow? Let's see, is there a way to allow users to add keywords if they're uploading content using OneDrive for Business and a synced library? That is a great question, because Todd and I are going to be doing a whole session at Ignite, a whole day-long session on OneDrive. So let's go look at that end-user experience. That is one of the awesome things about enterprise keywords, is that it is very generic, and that is actually, I've seen it show up in the OneDrive, like the Twitters, the OneDrive. So let me go sync one of these with OneDrive. Let's see, did I turn on enterprise keywords on this one? Yes, I did. Okay. So I'll go to my little, of course in Office 365 the sync button is in a different place. But this basically will sync it down to my OneDrive for Business, and then I will have it available. Yeah, sync now. This is my little test version. This is Windows 10, my little test version. Go show my files, and then so now this library it's put it in a little SharePoint category. So your OneDrive for Business is just your one My Documents library, basically, in your own My Site. That's what your OneDrive is. But every other library that you sync, like this one, it looks like I've synced this one. Maybe I synced a different one in a different farm a long time ago. This one is under SharePoint, because that's just some other library besides my own personal OneDrive library. All right, so I can go now in my file system. So she's asking about, now I got to wait for these files to populate in here. I'm going to enter my credentials. Oh, yeah, it's trying to go to my Office 365 site, because that's where these other ones are pointing to. Maybe I'll just humor it for a minute and just do that. Let's see. Anybody, any one of you want to chat about, like Joelle, the stuff like this that you've been implementing while I'm doing this? The enterprise keywords and default stuff?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I've done, going back to the keywords and stuff like that, and default values, is I usually, by default, will create a department column if I'm dealing with an intranet. And so every library in like the department sites of an intranet will have a department column that when I build the library and build the site, I set the default value there, so that they never have to worry about putting that information in. It just automatically tags it with the right department. And then what I've done with that is I've added department as a refiner and search So that way they can easily, if they're looking for something, they can use the refiner and search to kind of easily find documents from specific departments and stuff. So that's been a pretty common and popular thing that I've done. And then I can use that in other ways too. I can use that to build, custom queries where we're looking just for forms or we're looking just for policies, and we can have the department as a refiner and that kind of thing. So I do that a lot.
Nice, yeah. Hey, maybe can you find that other Power Hour that you did all about enterprise keywords and like put the link in the little
share thing? Yeah.
Showcase app? Let's see if it's synced yet. It still says it's empty. But okay, what I want to show you though, Beth, is it doesn't really matter if the file's synced down or not. But there's the ability to go in here and add columns just in Windows Explorer. So I can just right-click on my columns here that I see just in any file folder in Explorer, and I believe it is tags. I think I got this to work on just with my regular computer. Let's see. Yeah, it's tags. So this is a library that I have right here. Can you see this? This is the training class that I teach. PU is for power user. So this is in a SharePoint library in our own SharePoint site. And these are my resource files that I use for the class. But look at this. This is the enterprise keywords that I turned on the library. And that way when they sync down, it brings in the keywords. So yeah, you're right, Anne. Sometimes the sync can take a long. You wouldn't think it would take that long because it's on my VM right here on my computer. But yeah. So look at that. So when I do this, look at this. I have the same interface that I have almost exactly as I had in the library. So you have this. You don't have this in. You don't have other, like I've tried. You can see where I've tried other just default little columns that I saw in here just to kind of see what they had in them. I didn't have a lot of other useful information that was very obvious in here, but those tags definitely came across. So is that a good reason, you guys think, to use enterprise keywords as opposed to having more specific metadata columns, just because you can have that no matter where you are? It's pretty awesome. Yeah, just the big negative to that is just that it's more freeform, but you have so many positives. So you have it on the Save As screen in Office, all these different versions of Office. You have it as just a setting you can turn on all your libraries. You have it as a column you can add, and you have it as tags in Windows Explorer, so you can be able to sift through those files even if they're just on your computer. So a lot of good reasons to use that. All right. So the next sort of topic I had here, let me get over my little slides here, was so we went over the Office integration. We showed you where that is, user experience, how to set the default. So that was that column default value setting. And then we talked about just the term store and how you can go in there and rearrange things and just create your own structure and move tags around. So even if they've tagged it as a keyword, you can move it to some other part of your structure to make it more organized. And then as people are tagging things, they'll have that like detailed information when the words start coming up as they're typing things. So let's go look at the customizing the search search. So this kind of brings it all together as to maybe why to do this. So let's see. I think I might have already done this on this search center. Yeah, I already did this on this search center. So the interface, I'll go ahead and start over with a new one. But the interface here is I did a search, and then look at this. I've got tags just as part of my refiners. So I can click on a tag, and then this is actually going to narrow it down to tags that are like, especially if you have that sort of tree structure in your managed metadata. I clicked on policy, and then it narrowed it down to things that are maybe under that tag structure. So having tags over here is really helpful, and that really sort of brings it full circle and shows end users how what they're doing is really, is really helping them out and is really benefiting sort of that experience, and just, being able to find what's relevant and be able to find stuff in SharePoint and just having it be useful and not again, that's my big thing, is I don't want it to be hard for people to use SharePoint, and I don't want them to hate it. I just want it to be easy, and then to be able to easily save things, easily work on things, and then easily just find what they want. So how did I do this? So I'm going to go ahead and go to, let's see, I think I've got another site collection. Team, let's see if I did it on my team site. All right, so I do not have, this is just another site collection. I don't have a search center created in the site collection. I highly recommend you have a search center in every, or at least have one centralized search center that you use. And we did a whole, I think we did 2 other power hours on just the search center alone. So I'll go ahead and do a search center. Maybe y'all can throw those links in there if you find them. Stephen, I think you did those, right? Search.
I believe I did.
So I'll go to Enterprise and do Enterprise Search Center. And then, yeah, sure. Even though that doesn't actually do that. I didn't think I could talk for a whole hour. Oh, look, I've got to activate. Okay, so just FYI, in order to be able to create a search center, you have to activate this certain feature. So I'll go ahead and go back. And this is a team site. I wasn't really going to activate the publishing feature, but I'll go ahead and do that just for fun. Site collection features. SharePoint server publishing infrastructure. So that's what I have to activate. So anyway, what I was saying is I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to talk for a whole hour about just enterprise keywords and tagging, but apparently I did.
Laura, you could talk for a whole hour about anything related to SharePoint.
I know.
You're full of knowledge.
It's actually a running joke with us, Laura, that
Yeah.
like when we end ours at like, 35 or 45 minutes, we're like,
Yeah.
well, if Laura had been here, that would have gone for an hour and 1
Yeah, it would have.
So while I'm waiting for this thing to activate, it's just taking a second. Jack says, Jack comes to our Power Hour a lot. Jack says, what are the comments on InfoPath is back in SharePoint 2016 and Fossil VNext is 10? Oh my God, Jack, that's totally unrelated, huh? But yeah, I mean, they said there are going to be no more versions of InfoPath. So they're not doing Fossil as they demoed it. They're just doing something else, is what I understand. So that's all I can tell you with that.
Yeah. Just don't invest too much time in building InfoPath forms, but you can still use InfoPath. That would be what I would say. Don't do a lot of code behind or anything, but simple stuff.
Yeah, really. Maybe, especially just like stick to lists, maybe, and not so much libraries.
Yeah. Agreed.
Alex says there are other negatives to take into account as well. Oh, great. One that comes to mind is that it's not possible to edit enterprise keywords in the datasheet viewer library. It actually is.
Yeah, in 2013, that is a new feature that you were able to do. In 2007, 2010, you could not. Well, in 2010, because but 2010 you could not. But in 2013, you can, and it actually works really well. It does. Type ahead and everything.
I'll go ahead and share my screen again and show you that.
Good
I'll bet you'll
look at it.
Yeah. So let's go to my RTM. Oh, come on. All right. So I was in HR, I believe. I don't know where. I've got enterprise keywords in a lot of those. So I'll just go here, and then library and quick edit. And so when I click into one of these, I get the little tag icon, so I can quickly go to the tag icon. I can start typing. Like I can see policies. That's a synonym. I can see that come up, and this is, I can say, like marketing. And again, it's the same interface that you get. So I click OK.
Yeah, pay special attention to those other options there. So like if you want to select, like if you have a whole bunch of stuff incorrectly tagged, you can add and remove very easily from multiple columns. That's something that you definitely weren't able to do before, so you could do that now.
So I can just go through here and like select a bunch of them like that.
Yeah.
Just like Excel. I just hit held down my Shift key.
Yeah. No, not with Enterprise. Not with keyword, not with manage metadata, but you can do that.
Oh, okay. But if I go add this Term to all
Yeah.
selected fields, that would work.
Yes.
That is so cool. Let's see how fast that propagates.
Yeah,
Oh, there it goes. Awesome. Thanks, Joelle, the tip. Alex says, I didn't know that. Pretty cool. And Anne says, you ever done a show on using term store for site collection navigation? Oh, we should do that, huh, guys?
I talked a little bit about it on the one that I just put in the showcase. There is like one slide where I kind of talk about it a little bit, but we can definitely do more detail because there's a lot to know there.
Yeah, that's very cool. Okay. So that's how you can mass tag things. All right, so I've got 5 minutes left, and I was going to go show you, I was going to show you the site, the search center real quick. So I'll go create a new site contents, create a new subsite, search, and that's under, Enterprise Search Center, search. And it should not give me an error this time. So Stephen went over a lot of the benefits of the search center versus just the generic out of the box, just where people end up when they do a search in a just a site that doesn't have that's not going to a search center. So ton of benefits of having a search center, and one of those is being able to actually customize it, because if you are just on a regular team site and you just type some keyword to search and it takes you to the search results page, that's not a page that you can customize or edit by default. You actually have to have a SharePoint search center to be able to do that. So now here's my search center, and I can do my search, and I go to my, see, this is actually a page inside of my search center, the results page. So I'll go real quick. These are Webparts that I can edit. So I'll go edit this page. I'm editing the results page. So I typed in a search, got to the results page, now I'm editing that. And this is going to check it out to me just like it does with publishing pages. And then I'm going to go over and I've got to go edit these. Oh, you know what? Did I not go into compatibility view? Let me see. Maybe that's why I can't edit my web parts. I could probably just go do it from a different computer if I... Yeah, I've noticed that there are issues when trying to edit web parts when you're not, you don't have that little compatibility view thing turned on. You guys notice that? See, now it all works correctly. Thanks, Anne. Appreciate that. Laura could talk about anything forever. Yeah. Okay, so here, refinement. This is where I'm going. So I'll go edit web part. And this was actually in 2010, this is actually really complicated. This isn't something you can just do click, click, click in the UI. This is something that in 2013 that is improved in Office 365. So I can say choose refiners. And then here are all my available refiners. So let's see, what was that one called? I think it was managed properties. I could always just go back and look at that other one if I'm not sure what I used. Do you remember off the top of your head, Joelle? I think it was managed properties. Oh, tags. See, look, and when I click on tags, it even shows me what some of the tags are going to be before I even add it. That is so cool. And I can even move it up. That is so awesome. And then I have more, different things that I can configure down here. What I want to sort it by, so I can sort it by, like by default, it's going to have the one with the most tags at the top, and then by name, and then by number, and maximum value of refiner values. Maybe you don't want it to show any more than 15 at a time. So all kinds of neat stuff that you can do in addition. So I'll click OK, and then save. And now I got to check it in because it's a publishing page, and publish it. All right, so I'll go do a search. I'll call type policy. Actually, I'm going to do like dress code because I think that's one of the well, never mind. Policy. All right, so now I see tags over here, and then I see policy, and then when I narrow that down, it narrows down my documents and it gives me some sort of more specific information here, and then I can drill down. Is that awesome? I am so excited about this. So, wow, it's 11:59. So I'll have to talk more about my Ignite sessions maybe at another time, but I did write a blog post about it at wonderlaura.com. Let me stop sharing my screen. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And did y'all have any final things or things you need to point out about this? Or
Don't be scared to manage metadata and use it.
and then actually go manage it, maybe.
Yeah.
And if you're going to use managed metadata, get that advanced search in place because it makes it so much more valuable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll see you guys next week, same time, same place. And I'm not sure what we're demoing. We'll figure it out between now and then. But thanks, everybody, for coming. Bye.
Bye.